It is you. I thought it was you. I wasn't all the way sure, but now that I'm seeing you up close, sure, it's you.
It's Season 1, Episode 2 of Pluribus, Pirate Lady. Let's dive in. So we have a classic Gilligan Gould cold open. One where we get these mysterious visuals that don't necessarily make sense at the time, but we know that by the time that the credits roll, the puzzle pieces will fall into place. So we meet this unnamed woman and a bunch of other hive mind inductees. They work together silently to accomplish whatever task they have at hand here. In a world of a singular consciousness, words become unnecessary. Contrast that with Carol, an author, someone whose primary power comes from her words.
You killed 11 million.
A guy pulls up on a motorcycle and switches places with the woman, and she drives to the airport. Well, let's take a look at the road that she's on. She's driving on this winding bridge, and below the bridge we see what I think is a pedestrian sidewalk, and the sidewalk has these winding alternating patterns, littered by two corpses on the side. This winding bridge and the alternating winding pattern on the sidewalk, these bring to mind two visuals. They remind me of a generic visual for waveforms, and they are reminiscent of RNA. Waves and RNA are two key elements of the Pluribus narrative. One could say that they are the source of the show's primary conflict. And where do these winding, wave-like visuals go? Well, in the background, we see where the road leads. Towards chaos, towards destruction. I have a similar read towards this scene here. Two guys load up corpses into a truck. The corpses are laid out into an alternating pattern. One corpse points west, the next points east, then west, then east. You get the gist. And in the background of these alternating visuals, we once again see the smoke and the destruction caused by the joining. Let's get back to our mystery woman. She flies a cargo plane and lands in Albuquerque. Then she undresses in public, takes a shower, and gets a makeover. When she takes a shower, the shots emphasize how grimy she is. She's covered in mud, and she washes it all away. It's almost like a baptism. She washes away the sins of her past to become someone new. But in this baptism, is she also washing away the aspects of her that make her who she is, or was? Her essence, her individuality, her emotions, her humanness. From this scene where she's washing away mud, we get a hard cut into Carol digging a grave for Helen, getting all dirty and muddy in the process. Talk about contrast. In these scenes, the narrative is using cleanliness to highlight the differences between Carol and the woman. Carol is digging a grave for Helen, feeling the few emotions she allows herself to feel, the dirty, muddy human emotions of the human experience. Contrast that with a hive mind's representative. She's clean, prim and proper, not a speck of dirt on her. But she doesn't have the individuality that's mucking Carol up. And then she offers Carol some water. Water that Carol can use to baptize herself in the light and the salvation of the collective. Water that Carol ultimately rejects. Okay, I'm getting tired of calling her the woman. She has a name, which Carol fails to ask for. Zosia. People online have pointed out that in Italian, when spelled slightly differently, Zosia, or Zosia, translates into look-alike, duplicate, copy. And this is something that Carol quickly realizes. She compares Zosia's face with the cover of an earlier installment of Waikaro. And ta-da! She's Raban, when Raban was a her. For most of the episode, Carol refers to Zosia as the Pirate Lady.
The Pirate Lady can come back if she wants.
Makes sense. Zosia resembles the pirate in her novels. But let's dissect the word pirate here. In the more modern digital age, to pirate something means to use or replicate something without consent from the owner. And this is something that Carol points out later in the episode.
I don't remember you asking anyone. Anybody getting a vote on whether or not they wanted a joining?
That no one in the world had any say in being part of the joining. And now this super consciousness is using everyone's knowledge, everyone's skills and memories without the consent of the individual prior to the joining. Skipping ahead to the end of the episode here. Here we see Zosia looking back at Carol. Longingly? Question mark? Are there aspects of individuality seeping out of Zosia? Or is this an action dictated by the hive mind? Let me argue the former here. I have 4 points to support this claim, but they're very, very flimsy, very tinfoil, very conspiracy theory-like. So, hold on to your tinfoil hats here. Number 1. Zosia escapes the destruction of the joining. The cold open showed us a bunch of shots of the destruction caused by the joining, and these shots were typically paired with images of alternating wave-like patterns. And then we see Zosia fly the cargo plane. And in front of the plane, we once again see visuals of destruction. But Zosia gets to fly away from it. She gets to escape it. Number 2. Zosia crosses the parallel lines of the collective. When Zosia arrives in Albuquerque, we see her walk through these road markings. Yellow stripes of parallel lines. And where have we seen parallel lines before? In the pilot episode, the script points out parallel lines in the sky.
All of them kind of parallel like that?
This was when they were being sprayed with the happiness virus. And in my previous analysis, I posited that the parallel lines are sort of an avatar for the hive mind. So whenever we see prominent parallel lines, we can infer that the scene is somehow related to the collective. And in this scene, the parallel lines are a bit more subtle than I would like them to be, but Zosia walks across them, as in perpendicular to the parallel lines, as in she walks in the opposite direction. I think this analysis is giving a bit the blue curtains represents depression or something, but I think that the visuals here are telling us that Zosia will somehow walk her own path, a path that is in direct opposition of the hive mind's control. Number 3. Zosia's human tendencies. We see Zosia fully undressed in a public area. Then she casually walks through halls and rooms, not a care in the world that there are people around to see her fully undressed. But when she showers, she pulls the curtains halfway. If the people around her are all part of the hive mind, then they're all technically her. What's the point of pulling the curtains back for privacy then? No one here is uninfected. Everyone is part of the hive mind in this room. There's no need for theater, no need to perform these small acts of humanness. Also note, she only pulls the curtains halfway instead of all the way. I think aspects of human tendencies are seeping out of Zosia. That her individuality it's sort of making small gains in the tug of war against the hive mind. Number 4. The dirt and grime of human emotions. Earlier, I discussed how the show was using cleanliness to distinguish Carol from the hive mind. We saw how Zosia cleansed herself, washing away her individuality, while Carol dirties herself with grief and human experiences. But later on, we see Zosia actually help Carol dig Helen's grave. She gets a little dusty in the process, she's a little sweaty, there's some dirt on her forehead and on her sweater. The grime on her is not overt, but it's there. Perhaps it's the show telling us that Zosia, or some semblance of her, feels for Carol's loss, no matter how subtly these feelings are trickling out of the collective consciousness. Anyways, that'll do it for the bulk of my Zosia-focused breakdown. I'll touch on the other aspects of the episodes a little more quickly. The scene where Carol meets the other uninfected English speakers. This is the exact opposite of the hive mind. Carol tries to convince the rest of them to help her undo the virus. But the rest of them are not so keen. They have families that tether them to the collective. Carol does not. She's alone. The two sides of this argument, they can't put themselves in the shoes of the other. Whereas the hive mind literally has the ability to wear everyone's shoes. They can put themselves into every perspective and come to a consensus. The optics of this scene also doesn't help Carol. We've got the only blonde white person here, sitting in front of the American flag, telling everyone to embrace good old American individualism.
Oh, God bless America.
But the others don't seem to have this level of attachment to the values that Carol holds. Once again, they can't see the other side's perspectives. And speaking of this flag, we have this shot of Carol sitting in front of the American flag. And the flag is a blur in the background. The stars turn into these blurry dots and the stripes turn into blurry parallel lines. We see these parallel lines and dots once again in the costuming of the show. Carol wears this pink sweater with an almost dot-like parallel stripe pattern, and this guy, Otgon Bayar, He's wearing a black and white sweater with a design that really screams and emphasizes the dots and the parallel lines, just like the opening sequence of the show. And the episode ends with Carol stopping Air Force One from taking off. The imagery here really encapsulates what Carol is up against. It's a David and Goliath story. Carol is one person, armed with her words, her emotions, her wit, her humanness. And she's going up against this super entity comprised of everyone else on the planet. Her odds are literally 1 to 8 billion. Anyways, there were a lot of planes in this episode, but I don't really know what to make of them. I think they're related to Zosia, but we shall see. See you all on the next episode. Bye-bye.